we've got a quorum here. We'll go ahead and get the meeting started through approval of the minutes, and hopefully a couple other people will join us. I'd just like to say welcome to everyone. Does anybody have any revisions they want made to the agenda at this time? Hearing no revisions, we'll move on to the approval of the January 16, 2023 meeting minutes. Just got to go through those again this afternoon. Great minutes. Hillary, does anybody have any additions or corrections to those minutes, or do I would entertain a motion to approve them as well?
Motion to approve them.
I have a motion to approve from Mike Powell. Is there a second?
Yeah, I can second.
I have a motion to second from Nate. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? All right, hearing no discussion, the motion's been moved and second to approve the meeting minutes from January 16, 2023. All those in favor, please state aye.
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 And all those opposed, same sign. The meeting minutes for the January 16th Magip board have been approved. We'll move on to our next discussion topic, the discussion of funds that are available to get students to the 2024 Big Sky GeoCon. So I believe what precipitated this was some conversation amongst the board and from Jenny at the City of Bozeman about what funds were available for students in both travel and scholarships for the Big Sky, attending the Big Sky GeoCon. Does somebody do we I guess on this discussion topic, do we need to have some sort of synopsis that's available for students to understand what's available for them in an application? What type of discussion do you all want to have on this particular topic?
Well, I can jump in here because I think this also was brought up because I was chatting with Jackson Rose at MSU, who was interested in bringing, a similar amount of students that were present at the conference last year in Bozeman to Billings, which just for their department would require a bit more assistance. So I think really the conversation around this was whether or not we could maybe increase the funds or sort of discuss if that option was flexible in the event we could bring 20 plus students to Billings.
We have for a long time had established with what 10 we call them the student conference scholarships, but basically 10 attendance waivers for working at the conference. That's kind of always been the case. And for students that are traveling to present at the conference, there is a $150 travel stipend if they're traveling more than 100 miles.
Okay, Rob. So with that
find
being
room in the budget for more than that, then
Well, with that being said, I guess I never knew about the condition that they're either presenting or they're actually working at the conference for us to give them the funds. I'm not under
no, they're two different things. This is not, okay. This has always been the case. Help me out here, Michelle. This is nothing new.
Yeah, I think the word scholarship is very confusing. Mike, going back to what you're saying, I think historically, specifically before you've had a management company helping you, I think that you did rely a little bit on student volunteers to help man the registration desk and do those types of things. So I think part of the stipulation, if they were getting one of these, I'm going to call it a conference waiver and like travel stipend was that they had to commit to helping some volunteer hours at the conference. Since you have hired Full Scope and we help you with the conference, that's kind of, the need for that has kind of gone away. Though the conference fee waivers and the travel stipend has always been left in the budget. However, it's been significantly reduced the past couple of years because it wasn't being used, or students weren't taking advantage of it, or we just didn't have the interest from students. You know, last year in Bozeman was the most students I've ever seen at a conference. So I don't know if that needs to be revisited, but I can tell you those amounts were reduced because they just weren't being used.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Michelle. But
Yeah.
again, I think we need some clarification here. The student conference fee waiver, that's been in place, right? And that's so that students in the area, any student, you want to come to the conference, but you don't want to pay the conference registration fee, you've been able to apply for what they call the scholarship. And that was so that you can attend the conference free of charge. Right? And we have 10 of those in total.
Correct. Yeah.
And the travel stipend is separate from that, has nothing to do with that. You know, we're not going to pay you to drive to the conference and then waive your registration. That those are totally separate. In the scholarship and grant applications, part of the award package is a travel stipend if you're more than 100 miles away. And that hasn't been used always either, right? Some students who are local where the conference is, or, you know, they had a grant that was paying them for the research that they were doing, and, you know, that wasn't really always taken advantage of. But I think because of the nomenclature and I think there's some confusion there. So two separate things.
Yeah. So I think just a set of clarification where this came up from, I think it's clear what those, I guess, what the purposes of those were. But where this came up was just because of the amount of students that were interested from MSU. We were looking to see if there was any way to, one, increase some of the assistance, like increase the levels, whether, I don't know if we want to keep it with the same nomenclature and up it to, you know, 15 free student registrations or whatever. And then also whether or not there's any way to sort of flex the regulations that we have in place around the student funding. I think is mainly what we were looking to chat about here, like what budget increase would be available for that. Knowing that if we were to change this, right, we're changing it for all universities and all students. It's not just like a handout to MSU because they're saying that they'll bring, you know, X amount of students. Like, we have to keep in mind if we change it, it's available to everyone. But yeah, I think really what we want to look into is whether or not we should increase those funds, because there does seem to be more student interest this year.
Well, an option
Eric, can I
that's
just
been
ask
available.
a question really quickly? Is that it sounds like from the university's perspective, it may be easier to get funding for, and help me out because you told us this in another meeting, it's easier for Jackson to get funding, say, for transportation than it is for a room. Is that what you're saying? Like, what's the ask?
So when I chatted with him, he said that they are looking, yeah, so they're not planning on spending the night in Billings. I think their plan is to rent like 2 vans that can take about 20 students to Billings. They would just do a back and forth each day. It would kind of be 2 long days. So the funding assistance that they were looking for was, when I talked to Jackson, was registration and then transportation. And I told them, you know, we have the free registrations. I would recommend you just apply for those ASAP because we know we have that. And we know that that's not going anywhere, just in case we decide to not provide any additional help. And then also, you know, just apply for what we have. Is what I suggested. And then I just said I was gonna mention to you all that if additional assistance was available, that they would be able to bring, you know, more students. Because I think with what's available, they would have, you know, 10-ish students, but that amount could be around 20 to 30 with a bit more assistance from us.
So Eric, one option that's been available, and let's keep in mind, we have a membership to support, right? Members get benefits for being members and things of that nature. So as a member, you can apply for assistance, right? Like for meetups and things of that nature. So a request for assistance, you can submit one of those. So as a Magip member, you could submit a request for assistance for travel, right? And then they could use that to help pay for a van.
Okay,
So-
yeah, it's a good.
Eric,
But
I just
the-
have a question too, like last year, MSU paid for all those students. I mean, MSU paid for like 30 students to attend the conference in Bozeman.
Mhm.
Did they just happen to have funding last year for that and they don't this year, or what's the difference?
Yeah, that wasn't clear to me.
Okay,
About why all of a sudden there's, I mean, maybe it's just the transportation.
yeah, because I was gonna say if they're willing to pay the registration fee, then maybe Magip's, you know, maybe they could get some of the travel stipend money.
Yeah, and
I like
another
that. That's a
another thing
nice
I did remind,
change there.
I think also what's slightly different between last year and this year is that last year, I think someone else was a bit more in charge of the student registration for MSU. Where I like this year, it's Jackson Rose is the contact. Jackson wasn't the contact last year. So like one thing I reminded Jackson of is that student registrations are already discounted. Because one thing that he asked was like, oh, could we discount student registrations? I'm like, they're already significantly discounted from. So I think there's also that gap as well. It's just a new person that we're working with. But I believe it's mostly the travel. You know, it's two full-size vans for 2 full days. So, which isn't a crazy amount, but it is a little more. So,
But
I guess
on
I'm
their
gonna
hand,
just throw
yeah.
I'm sorry, Rob.
Good.
I guess I just want to throw my 2 cents worth in and say, I'm like, what's the distance from Bozeman to Billings? Is it 2 hours?
yeah, it's about a 2-hour drive. It is over 100 miles. I think it's like 120, something like that.
Okay.
So
I don't
all
know.
of those,
Go ahead.
all those
140-ish.
that we've
Sorry.
discussed it's 140. So all those funds that we've discussed are available to them. It's just like Michelle said, we have reduced those because they haven't been as utilized. Would we want to up it a little more this year? Like, do we have room to do that?
Yeah, I mean, in the budget right now, we have for assistance, we have $575 budgeted, and that is down from $800. But in previous years, that assistance money also included $225 for poster awards for the Earth Science Colloquium, which is now in the poster awards. So it is a similar amount that for what we've budgeted for in the past. And then for student travel, we have $250. So I don't know if we have enough information to make a decision on if we need to up this amount. It'd be nice if we got a request from them with like an estimate of what they need for travel.
Okay, so how about, so we don't have to, you know, beat this one to death, I can just suggest that they go and fill out the request for assistance. And we just stick with what we have.
I think that's a
Yeah,
wonderful idea for the travel and stuff. I think what Rob was saying was, that's what they should do. Yes, for sure. Then we can get some numbers or something.
Yep, I think that's a good idea.
and I would encourage the students to sign up to be members, right?
Mhm.
I mean, that would make sense too. If we're going to give them any sort of award, they should be a member.
Great.
Do we know how many students are actually interested? I know there was like a survey 123 out there that we didn't create, but was kind of related to assistance for students.
We could find out very quickly if they apply.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the other hard part about this is right now is, you know, students are students, and I know when I was in that position, I wasn't thinking about a conference out in April, you know, in early February, and your professor's telling you to sign up and whatnot. You just do it last minute. You know, so it's hard to gauge that interest when it's coming from, you know, a professor who's giving us an estimate as opposed to students actually telling us that they want to come.
Hey, so Eric, a nice way that we could tie some of this together. I know exactly what you're talking about with students and timing and that type of thing. So basically, to encourage instructors at MSU to get the word out about the scholarships, they can also, you know, advertise the student registration waiver,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
So because they're not focused on anything other than school and recreation, you know, it'd be a good time to bring up the fact that, hey, Magip has scholarships out there. You can apply for, you know, an actual, you know, higher education scholarship. They also have some conference waivers, you know, in exchange for your participation. And, you know, the way for whoever the, maybe Jackson, whoever that is on that end, to kind of beat the street a little bit with some Magip information.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we could do like a matching funds kind of thing. Like if, to your point, Rob, we could ask students to become members, and if they want to register, could register using the free student memberships, and then potentially do some matching funds or something. I guess I just, from my perspective, would like to point out that I'm confident that one of the reasons that not as many students were coming to conferences was because of COVID. I think that's part of it. I think the other part is that during COVID, those contacts that we had with the university were maybe broken down. And I think in this particular situation where the conference is in Billings, where we're already concerned that we're going to have lower membership, especially amongst the student population, we should be making a special effort to get the students there. So I personally think that we should be flexible and figure out ways to get them there. And if it means making some kind of accommodation, then I think we should do it. And I think that we should consider modifying our budget to get more students there. I just think it's the right thing to do. And I think that they're the youngest members of our profession and that we should support them.
And so let's get them to be a member, and then
Yeah.
they can have some member benefits.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, Gail, that was
that's how
well
that's
said.
how
I think
it is.
I think what we can do is just, because also the tough part about this situation, right? Since I'm sort of in the middle here with the
Yes.
MSU connection, I think there's also a little part of this request that's MSU just kind of pulling my strings and being like, hey, what can
Yeah.
you do for us? So I think I'll just direct them to go through the request for assistance, see what they actually ask for, and then if it's reasonable, then maybe we modify the budget to account for that. Yeah, just so that way it feels like it'll be the most accurate way, instead of just, upping our budget now, or, based on an arbitrary amount.
Yeah, but I think Eric, having you as a liaison with MSU is awesome. I mean, being able to have a student in the room that is identifying the need to get students there. I mean, I don't think we would be having this conversation if you weren't in the room. So it's awesome that you're here and are able to communicate with Jackson. But I do think that well, I would say that our numbers were low 3 years ago. COVID knocked them sideways, and that we as an organization should be doing everything in our power to get those numbers up and to definitely encourage the students to get there. So that's my 2 cents. But I love Rob's idea of them coming to the table too, because you shouldn't be the person in the middle, Eric.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I
And
can tell
for-
you there's
for
going to be like
fairness, too.
two students from U of M, maybe,
Mhm.
that are coming. And I think it's a consequence of the location, and it's something actually we should probably think about going forward. There are multiple good reasons for distributing the conference around the state, and there are also challenges associated with it too.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Do we have a liaison at University of Montana?
I mean, it's basically me.
Okay.
And I
But you're
believe,
not a student there. Sorry, I interrupted. I apologize.
Jeff's been
No,
in
but
communication with the people in Billings as well. I mean, we plan on having some students here locally as well. Yeah, I don't want to speak for you, Jeff.
No, yeah, I've been pushing it hard. When we had the GISD prep meetings and the GIS day meetings, and the two professors here that are running the GIS programs for MSUB and for Rocky Mountain College are at least interested in trying to get that information out. And I've been leaving that up to Jenny, since Jenny wanted to be the conduit for communication. So I haven't done any reaching out recently about that.
Yeah, it's actually, Mike, thanks for bringing that up. There are several other students at other institutions. You just named at least two of them locally that will want to come. We have 10 slots currently, right? So get those applications in. It's first come, first serve. And then,
Well, and
and we can take it from there.
Right.
But see if there really is a huge demand. So nobody counts. Nobody exists unless they apply. Right? And if we get 35 applications, we can talk about what we want to do for the runners up.
Yep.
so I just reached out to Jenny to ask her if she had sent the survey 123, and she said she just went to the survey 123 for Magip conference and student registrations, and there are none. That was at 11 o'clock today. So, Eric, maybe we could make sure that we get you the link for the survey 123 to make it easier. Maybe there's another way that we need to be sending this. I apologize, I've been out of town for a little bit and I've been really slammed. Did this go out on the listserv?
I think that's a bit of a point of contention, is it went out without any like sort of board review, and maybe there was some board
Okay.
support for it, but I think it would have been nice to have some communication with the board that this was being done. I don't know if maybe there was communication and I'm missing something, but I don't feel like there was. And
Are we talking about the survey 123, Jeff?
yes, yeah.
Okay. So I know that Jenny did the survey last year too, and it sounds like she's done them in previous years. And I feel like it was something that we talked about in the conference planning, but maybe I'm wrong.
I definitely think there was some communication with Jenny doing some of this in the conference planning. You're right.
Yeah, I think Jenny has just done it for the last few years, so she just went ahead and just sent it out. There wasn't really like an approval. I remember just Jenny
Yeah.
saying, I'll get on that, and then she did it, so. Which is awesome, but yeah, maybe we need to revisit it at some point to make sure we're really actually getting a good gauge for student interest. Maybe how it's being sent out is just going into the back of, some professor's inbox, and they don't think about it till April. Maybe we need to push that note that Rob, you were saying, like, hey, like, we do support students, but we're a limited organization. We can't send all the students here for free, so it's kind of first come, first serve. Will get you some guaranteed assistance.
Like you said,
Well,
Eric, they like to wait to the last minute, so.
Yep.
And I think it should be pretty made clear that it's not a blank check, and there
Yep.
has to be some participation feedback from the students so that we know what that really is going to look like. Because I really like Jackson, love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with him and chat. But Jackson may say, yep, I can get 30 students there, when in reality only 15 are going to be able to show up. So it would be nice. Yeah. Thanks for your
Exactly.
hard work on that, Eric.
Oh, it's been going good. I'll just push the request for assistance. I think that's probably that's the fairest
Yep.
way for everyone to go about this.
And it'll give us some hard numbers of what they're looking at and stuff, so that we can
Yep.
start judging things. Yeah, absolutely. And membership.
Yep.
Promote the membership.
Should we try and do a social media push to make this available to everyone, to make sure everyone's aware of it instead of just those at MSU?
Yeah, I
That's
think
a
that's a
good idea,
great
Dave.
idea.
Yep.
That's
I think that's a
probably
great
gonna be the
idea.
most effective.
Yep.
Along those lines, maybe we could do, a scholarship push as well. Not in the same communication.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we're going to reach out about that, I think definitely spreading the word again in a different format about the grants and scholarships, I think that'd be great.
Mike Edom, you want to communicate that then? Get some social media access out there.
Yeah, I can do that. I found the email from Jenny, and it was forwarded by you, Mike Powell, to the board on February 7th.
Right,
about the
that's because
scholarships.
we had the meeting and we had the planning meeting, and she said she sent this letter out, and then for me personally, I didn't remember anybody saying anything about this letter. And I thought it was a little odd that she's just sending this out. She's not a board member anymore. I mean, it's great that she's volunteering and everything, but she never checked with the board about it. That was my recollection. And then I was reminded that we did talk about this and stuff. So that was my bad. But the letter also was there to promote this conversation so we can get this moving a little bit.
Well, I like the social media post, and I also think Rob has a great point in that considering one place to have the Big Sky Geocon, it does have some serious pluses. And I've been involved with a couple of different conferences where one, they've always had it in one place all the time. What is it called? GIS in the Rockies, I think, is always in Denver, and I think always at the University of Denver. And then another organization with another state that I was involved with, we had it, we'd have it in the west part of the state, and it would be where that's a rural population, it would be poorly attended. And then on the eastern side of the state, it would always be well attended. And we just finally just said, all right, we're going to settle on one place. And there was probably a little frustration at that from the beginning, but it then just turned out to be something that was a lot easier to manage. So.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up. And we've gone back and forth on that, right? I mean, at one point, we considered just doing it in Helena every year, right? It makes the planning a lot easier. Helena is the capital because it's central location, and it adds some consistency. But yeah, anyway, that pendulum swings every couple of years.
All right.
I'm still part of the University of Montana's geography listserv, and they have been receiving these emails. So, I mean, they're out there. I don't know how much the professors are pushing the information in their classes, but it's still part of their listserv. So,
yeah, I
good.
send those notices to Anna Clenny, and then she gets it on the listserv usually. And their GIS certificate program is sort of in a state of flux. They're trying to hire a permanent instructor for that, but the previous one retired, and there's a big gap.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we've got a good plan in advertising this on social media and making sure that people are aware of the opportunities and try to do it first come, first serve. And if there is a lot more interest than the available spots that we have for free attendance and also for the support money for attending, maybe that's something we can broach as a board once that happens. Is that where we're at for a decision on this?
I think that's a good suggestion, Jeff. I would follow that with, let's just keep something in mind as an option for if we have to discuss this further. And I think potentially an alternative would be if you sign up to become a member, we'll give you a conference waiver.
Yep.
Right? I mean, I think that's pretty fair. And then you get a year's worth of member benefits, and for what, $25? That's a pretty good price.
Well, I appreciate Gail's sentiment. I do kind of feel like it's a nominal fee, the $75 for a student registration, but also there is some pride and ownership in doing that yourself. And so, and there's also a lot of resources out there for students to attend things like this, like was done with MSU last year. So I think there's a lot of options out there to help us support students. But getting students to attend is huge and should be one of our big goals. That's just my personal 2 cents. So.
Hey, I have one more question before we move on, and I know we need to move on, but when I was in college, there was my undergraduate degree is geology. There was a geology club. Is there a club for GIS at any of the universities? Just a thought,
There's a
suggestion, maybe we
club
could
at
forward
U.
that.
There's a geography club at U of M, and that kind of serves that role. And they're in the process of reviving. And yeah,
There's an Earth Science Club that focuses on GIS at Rocky Mountain College. And I think there might be something similar at MSUB as well. And I would hope that there would be some financial assistance stuff that goes along with being part of those clubs. So
Yeah, I'm not sure what there is. I think there's a geography club at MSU as well.
COVID threw a wrench in everything. The conferences were really difficult to plan and work, but also the student dynamic really changed. They didn't give a damn about anything. And that's what I heard from the professors, at least at U of M. They weren't interested in applying for scholarships, they weren't interested in doing anything above and beyond. And I think, that sentiment sort of carries forward. So yeah, it is a challenge to regain some of that momentum.
all right, I don't know that there's any action items that need to happen on this, but I do think we have a good plan. Does everybody feel confident that we've got some good action items here and got those responsibilities delegated out? Is that pretty clear, or do we need to work on that?
No, I think everything is clear.
Okay. All right, moving on, we'll move on to the location of the June, that should say, that should June 2024 quarterly meeting. That's an in-person meeting after the elections and new members are installed. Is this premature to have this action item on the agenda, or is that something we want to discuss right now?
I actually would like to talk about it. So it sounds like in previous years, this is something that gets resolved after the elections. And this is the in-person meeting, right?
Mhm.
So I would be interested in knowing where you would like to have the meeting and whether or not the board members that are board members now would like to come up with a location, or you think we should wait until after the election and all of the new members are also on the team and have a voice. It would be easier for us to get it scheduled now. But I also am sensitive to the fact that in previous years, this has been put up for a vote. So just as the vice president getting ready to move into the presidency, I would really like to get your feedback on this. Is this something that you would like to have a voice in, or would you like me and a few others to make a decision and tell you where we're going to meet? What feels best to you?
There really wasn't a vote or anything. I mean, it was just getting together, discussing where the next logical place would be. Yes, this meeting will be after the elections, and I will talk about that in a little bit here. There will be, so after the elections, the new people will be on June 1st. We will have an orientation for them before the June meeting so that they're getting familiar with some of the stuff that's going on. The June meeting should be set up before. We can't wait for them. We need to set that up now. Or it doesn't have to be now, but beforehand. And they're just, we just can't we can't wait for them because we gotta, at the orientation, we're gonna let them know, okay, this is the meetings, here's our next meeting, it's an in-person meeting, you gotta be here. If you can't make it, understandable. Like you to attend if possible, and that'll be something that I will let everybody know when they are nominated. And I'll confirm with them that they're good with nomination, that if they are elected, that they can, their job and their bosses are they're acceptable of them doing some extra work here for Magip, volunteering, and let them know that we do have in-person meetings. Our first one being in June, that if they would be able to, if, you know, as long as their businesses will be able to accommodate them for that and everything. But I don't think we can wait for them. I think we need to make the decision now or beforehand.
I'm wondering, just throw it out there. What do you think about combining that with the retreat? Make that one, because we kind of go back and forth on when and where we're going to do the retreat. And, you know, just to limit travel for everybody.
We gotta have 4 in-person meetings, Rob, so. Unless you're talking about changing the bylaws.
Is that true?
I'm
I
just
thought
throwing
that
it
was
out
something
there.
that wasn't the case.
I'm sorry, I heard somebody say something.
Oh, it's Hillary. I thought that wasn't true about the 4 in-person meetings.
I'm pretty sure that that's the case, that we're supposed to have 4. You have to at least attend 1 for sure, if not 2. If I remember the bylaws, I'd have to look them up again, but
And is one of those meetings at the Mega conference?
yes,
Okay,
Where has that
Okay.
June meeting been held before? Where is it usually held?
it rotates. I mean, last year was in Billings.
Oh,
No,
okay,
it's Helena.
that's right.
yeah, it was in Helena.
And the year before it was in Billings.
Okay, so
Yeah, and then we had the retreat this last year was at Anaconda, is that right?
Uh-huh.
yep.
Mhm. Yeah,
I think there's only a couple logical places to have the meeting since we're all from, you know, either Helena, Missoula, Bozeman, or Billings. And since the conference is in Billings, and the last meeting was in Bozeman, we can just rotate it back somewhere we haven't been recently, like Helena or Missoula.
and just so you guys know, that your bylaws say that you just have to have at least 4 meetings a year and at least 1 in person.
Okay.
So just my 2 cents is, Gail, you as the oncoming president, it's to your discretion, I think, to where, I mean, it needs to be, so as Hillary said, somewhere centrally located. As being on the far eastern part of that area, it doesn't matter too much to me. Helena is only a couple well, about 3 hours away, and that's not too bad of travel. Missoula is a little bit more difficult, but we haven't met there in a long time. But yeah, it's your discretion, I think.
Okay, so this isn't something that I have to put out for a vote. I can work with Michelle and we can come up with a location that's as central as we could make it, and people would be happy with that. Rob, you had mentioned that you thought it might be a good idea to combine the retreat with this early sorry, my boss is pinging me. That it would make good sense to combine the retreat with this early meeting. I was talking to Jenny about that, and Jenny actually had suggested that as well. I wasn't aware that there was a 4 in-person meeting requirement, and it sounds like there really isn't. It sounds like we can we can do the retreat maybe in June, and then not have an in-person meeting in September. It would be helpful to be able to have the more retreat-like meeting in June so that we could talk about our budget and how we want to form our budget and what our goals are for the year. I feel like doing that in September is kind of late. And yeah, I like the idea of having the orientation early in June. And then maybe later in June doing the retreat for 2 days. The challenge is that it's June. It's right before the Esri UC. I don't know. How do other people feel about doing the retreat in June as opposed to September?
Well, I would just suggest that if you're gonna do it in June, you need to get your stuff out there now. I mean, it's
Yeah.
gonna be ridiculous trying to find a place, but I mean, I've got no problem with it being in June.
There's part of it is, finding an actual place to do it, but also, that's a short turnaround, a relatively short turnaround between getting elected and being like, oh yeah, I need 3 days off work in a month.
Yeah, that's a
But
good point, Tessa. Thank you. Rob, did you have something?
No, I was agreeing with Tessa on
Okay.
on that, and it's I recall several people who've been elected and who've had to decline, because they couldn't, manage that right away.
Okay, that's a good point. I appreciate that feedback. One of the things that Michelle and I were talking about was moving the retreat to earlier in September, recognizing that we have Labor Day, and then we also have seasonal things that could prevent us from being able to book a place. So could everybody remind me when we had the meeting in Missoula, or yeah, was it Helena this year? Was it one day we drove over and drove back? Okay, so it sounds like if we met in June, it would be a 1 day in person and then a retreat, which is a 2 day overnight. If we kept it the same. Okay. Anybody have any ideas about where they'd like to go?
were we talking about Ennis at our last meeting? Or am I making that up?
We did talk about Ennis, and I actually took a trip over there. Michelle, there was a little place that you had suggested. I don't remember the name of it, a little lodge. I drove in there. It actually is like little tiny cabins, and I didn't see any place where you could get together. But there was a place around the corner that looked really fascinating. But I don't know how expensive it was.
And Gail, my work organization had a retreat there last spring in Ennis, and one of the big banks in town has a conference room that they have events in, and that's what
Do you
we
know the
use.
name of the bank?
I think there's only 2 in the town, and
Okay.
I could look on the map and find out, but I don't recall the name offhand. It is on the south side of Main Street.
Okay.
And the place I was looking at, Gail, had meeting space in their restaurant.
Okay. Do you remember the name of that, Michelle?
I don't, I'll have to look it up, and I did email them and never heard back, but I can, I know that you and I were gonna maybe try to have a separate call about it, so I can make sure I have that information before we do.
Yeah, maybe with this week we could get something on the books for you and I to talk about it, and we can get something scheduled. I personally feel like if you guys don't need to be like, if we don't have to have a survey 1, 2, 3 and everybody, type in on what exactly and where exactly they'd like to go. I'd like to just work with Michelle. We'll find something that is in between the three major cities and make it as local as we can for everybody. And Jeff, try to make it easy for you to get there too, because I realize you're kind of the outlier.
Mike.
Mike, go
Just
ahead.
so you guys know that, I mean, this meeting is not a date. I mean, it's just our typical 4-hour meeting, in-person meeting. It's from 10 to 2. I mean, we just need a meeting space and that's all we need. I mean, the strategic planning thing, that's a whole different animal. And that's a whole different thing, you know.
Got it. Okay.
And so I completely understand that if you want to move it to June, and I mean, you made sense with the, you know, talking about the budget. That'd be great to be all together for 2 days on that. And talking about the work plan and all that stuff. I mean, that totally makes sense and stuff. But it's like, that's a 2-day thing. That's a completely different venture than these in-person meetings. They're just a 4-hour in-person meeting. So.
Yeah, good point, Mike. And
Thank
I
you.
mean, I'd also like to say that this in-person meeting thing, you know, things were a lot different from when those notions were first established, right? I mean, we had dial-up internet at that time. We didn't have all these other opportunities to gather. So anyway, something to think about. Hey, but listen, I have to jump to a meeting in a couple of minutes. In terms of my report, because I'm lower on the list and I won't be able to give it. Scholarship announcements are out there. You know, we have a plan for accepting those scholarships and processing them and get ready to make announcements at the conference. I did have one question for Hillary. I am working with Sarah Tabor, the teacher at Belgrade High School, on, you know, analyzing and processing the data that they're working with. Do we have an AGOL account? And is there some way that maybe Hillary, you and I could get together and talk about how to access it, share data with this teacher?
Yeah, we do have that account now. I can share the credentials with you. Is she thinking of like posting her layers on the account?
That's what I'm thinking. I know she has an account, and I've been working with the data on my machine. And so if I could, you know, publish some services on our account and then share that with her, that would be cool. Maybe you and I could email you and we could strategize on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
All right, well, we are at 2:55 and we're like 3 or 4 deep into the agenda. I don't know, on the MSU Earth Science Colloquium, I saw that was on an agenda for previous February meeting. I don't know if if we can push that. Would you all be okay in pushing that discussion?
Yeah, that's fine. That's just to bring us up there to put it in our head that usually that thing happens right around our conference time too. So
Okay.
it's just something we'll have to call, you know, talk to MSU to see when they're actually having it, if they're having it, and you know, move forward from there. But this is just a starting point to start the conversation.
If anybody hears any planning on that, if they could just pass it along to the board so we make sure that we're involved.
Yep, I know for sure that there hasn't been much progress made on this at MSU yet. So
Okay.
So not many details yet.
All right. Thank you all. Moving on to old business. Mike, do you want to talk about elections?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief. Been working with that a little bit, and I think I've got the schedule set up. It's kind of similar to last year. It's still going to fall to where we're gonna put nominations out there on the 8th of April. And then the nominations will close on the 22nd, which would be on that Monday after our conference. So that would allow us during conference time to talk to people and try to get people involved and stuff. So that would give us a week to figure out the nominations. I'll send out emails to them to make sure that they're good with, you know, what they're getting into and stuff like that, and their bosses are good with it as well. And then the 29th would be election, the start of the election. That'll go on till the 13th. That'll be 2 weeks. And then we'll have a week of going over the election results, and on the 21st, our board meeting. In May, we will talk about it, ratify it, and then Jeff, you'll notify them, and then by the 28th of May, June 1st, 28th of May, the new members will be appointed. And then we'll have an orientation forum first or second week of June, and then we will have the first board meeting for them will be June 18th, with them being involved, whether that's in person or not, or however we decide to do it.
Do we want to continue to have this on the agenda, or between you and Michelle, Mike, you've got it handled, and maybe an update closer to the actual election in April or something, at the April meeting or something like that?
Yeah, no, if you don't wanna hear my spiel about this every week, that's fine. No, I think I got a pretty good handle on it. I'm gonna be probably selecting a couple members. According to the bylaws, I have to make a little committee, so it's just not me going through the results, that we have a couple people looking it over and everything, so everything's kosher and stuff. So I'll probably be reaching out to 1 or 2 people to help me with that. And other than that, yeah, I mean, that's basically what the plan's gonna be, so.
Yeah, I like the plan. It looks good. Yeah, give us feedback if you want to hear any updates on it, rest of the board. Yeah. Any questions for Mike on that? All right, moving on. I see that we have social media out there on the electric line map contest. Does anybody have any updates that they want to provide on that topic, or is that initiative going as planned?
I just looked quickly at our online account, and it looks like the power line data has been downloaded 15 times since
Nice.
February 1st. So hopefully that's not just like me and Gail testing it out, but hopefully people are using it.
Not me, but that's awesome.
Okay, that's good. So maybe we have a little participation.
Can we
I gotta
send that
run
one more
here.
time? Oh, sorry, Rob.
I gotta jump off here in a second, but just for something interesting on this topic, I was talking with Northwestern Energy and their GIS people just last week, and you know, up until like recently, they were mapping their own power lines using Google Earth.
Tell them they can have their own meetup next next November.
I know. I told them about what we did, and they're like, "You did what?" I
That's
was like, "Yeah,
awesome.
man, OpenStreetMap, check it out."
That's very cool. Good for you.
Okay, all right. Hey, great meeting. Good talking with you guys. See you soon.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
All right, any other comments, discussion, things we need to do on this, or do you all feel like this is going well? Sounds like 15. That sounds good to me, and that's my take. So,
Do you have a deadline for that? I didn't hear it.
I think we had in the minutes the deadline was the Sunday before the conference or something like that.
Okay.
Yep.
I was just curious. That was for me. I was curious.
Do some awesome mapping, Tessa.
Yeah.
Hearing no further discussion, we'll move on to reports. So we'll start with the local government SIG report. Andrew, how's it going?
Hi. Can y'all hear me?
Mhm.
Things are going well, actually. I've had a significant increase in participation since the beginning of 2024. And I have content booked out almost to June and July um, ahead of time. I just have to actually go to the website and put in the actual proposed agendas so that people don't ask me 2 days before, what are you doing? Is there still a meeting? But we had a great time this last time with a couple of great presentations from some MSDI leads. One was Aaron Fashaway talking about the imagery repository and kind of updating the members on the need for feedback and participation in that, and got some good feedback on that. And then also we had a good discussion about the next gen 911 workflows for certain updates. And Bob Cochran and Mike Bashaway did a great job of walking through some of the workflows and about that. So I've been very happy that people have been reaching out to ask to put space on the calendar for content, and I've got stuff built out, and I'm just happy that I can be of service and that they're giving me good feedback. That's about it.
I'd concur with everything you said. Every time I attend, Andrew, it's just surprising how many people are attending, and it's just great conversation. I really appreciated the feedback that I got through the meeting this past month. So
the only thing I'm working on right now is just kind of building some skeleton topic ideas for the in-person meeting at the GIS conference for the roundtable. I find it's a little bit easier to at least have something for people to look forward to in terms of getting their interest in attending, as opposed to just, let's all go over and talk about random stuff. So I'm just kind of brainstorming some ideas, and I'll get some good feedback hopefully next time from the SIG and see where we go from there.
And just quickly looking at what Mike's got going with the member survey, there's really good feedback, very positive feedback, looks like so far on the local government SIG. So
thanks.
All right, anybody have any questions for Andrew and the local government SIG? Hearing no questions or discussion, we'll go ahead and move on to the treasurer's report. Nate, how's the budget doing? Did Nate have to jump off?
It looks like it.
Oh, yep, he had to hop off. He says, don't have a lot to report. Our CD matured in January 28th. We made $465. So we for a total now, we in the CD we have $25,465.34. So that's pretty amazing.
Mhm.
So it doesn't sound like there's any major issues with the budget, and I can touch base with Nate if anybody has any questions or comments that they want to ask on the treasurer's report.
It's just amazing how we struggled with the budget this past year, thinking that we were always in the red, and we turned out to be we're doing quite well right now.
Mhm.
Michelle, do you know if memberships are starting to roll in with the deadline? I know every time I open up the website, it tells me I owe money. So
I think Michelle had to jump. She had another meeting.
okay. So she says, I have another meeting at 3, need to leave. Leave the conference reports up to Eric. Okay. So far, there have been 41 individual members that have renewed and 3 organizational members. So City of Bozeman, MSU, and Yellowstone County. So, all right, there's the update there. We'll move on to the conference committee. Eric, how are things going with you and Tessa and planning for the conference and workshops?
Things are going really well. We have another planning meeting tomorrow, which I'm gonna send a reminder because we upped the frequency every other week.
Yeah, you didn't send that out to anybody, so you might want to send that out to everybody, because I didn't get anything saying that we're having it tomorrow. I know we talked about it, but.
But you didn't get anything?
I didn't get anything either.
Okay, I'll send that out before, I'll just do that right when we're done here. But yeah, we made some good progress last week. Yeah, one thing, I mean, we all talked about it a lot, I'm not gonna rehash it, but was student funding was one thing that we were talking about quite a bit. And then we just sort of made the decision that I was gonna see what to do with swag. One thought I had was reaching out to like Onyx and seeing if a swag option would be like either a reduced membership or like a free year or something. Try to mix it up, get a cool mapping application with part of the conference registration. See if they want to do anything like that. And then we were sort of hashing out the final details for all the workshops. Tessa, do you have any updates with that?
I was gonna get Michelle when she was on here, but I didn't realize she had to leave. I think almost everyone has at least their like information in and description. I guess it's just a matter of touching base with her and seeing who we need to badger a little bit more. But yeah, everything else is. Oh, we got John Hoagland doing remote sensing. Haven't gotten his stuff for sure, but that we just decided that. So.
Oh, okay. So I do have a couple questions for you. So John Hoagland's doing remote sensing.
Yeah, I think that's what we decided, right?
Okay.
Double check.
Yep.
Is the parcel fabric, is that gonna be virtual, or is he coming?
Virtual.
It is virtual.
Yep. Yeah, so we got all that sorted out. Yeah, thanks Tessa for doing that. I think we have a pretty sweet lineup of workshops this year. And one thing, Mike, maybe I can send you Mike Item, sorry, I can send you an email separately. Was one thing we did discuss was distinguishing the mapathon contest versus the map contest. We realized in the last meeting that could sort of get confusing. I know some people have downloaded the data, but we were just gonna maybe have ask if Alicia could create some sort of graphic and a post as well, just to make sure that those two events are distinguished from one another. So that way people understand that they're different things. And then I'm waiting on one more response for the awards committee. But it's almost assembled, and Michelle in her report said that we do already have one livability award nomination. And I don't think we don't have any nominations yet for the distinguished service. So yeah, and as far as updates go, I think that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Eric. It sounds like great progress is being made. Looks like all the conference sessions are mostly filled out. I don't know if there's any need for help on like roundtables or discussions, but it sounds like we've got a full slate of meetings. I was talking to Helen last week, and she let me know she got confirmation that her presentation had got accepted. So sounds like we're things are getting closer, but we're ready, right? So
yeah, I think the lineup for like workshops are booked out, presentations are booked out as well. So everything's in place.
All right. Tessa, do you have anything else on the on the technical committee and workshops stuff? Any other feedback for the group?
Not at this point. I think I just need to get a hold of Michelle and see where we're at.
Okay. All right, Rob gave us his update on where things are on scholarships. They've got that all posted out and available for the public to look at the information and apply. We'll talk about member development. Mike Item, how are things going for you?
Pretty good. I sent out the Magip member satisfaction survey, I think on Thursday of last week, and we've had 12 people respond. And I only sent it to the listserv, and I had Alicia create a graphic for it, and it was shared on social media as well. And I plan on sending it out via Wild Apricot to all members, maybe later this week. And then I don't know when we want to close the survey, or if we just keep it open for a month and see how many more we get. But yeah, I think people have been filling it out and answering some of the text questions, which I think is helpful. So I can put together a report for, I guess, next month, and we can talk about the results. Yeah, it sounds like we have a couple more social media posts to create. One differentiating the difference between the two types of map galleries we're having at the conference. Do you want to send me an email about that, Eric?
Sorry, I was having a hard time finding the mute button. Yes, I can. So, sorry, just to clarify, you're looking for. Hold on, sorry, I was writing something down. Can you repeat that, Mike?
Just the social media post.
Yeah.
I guess differentiating the difference between the two conference prizes or map galleries we're having.
Yep. Yeah, so I was actually writing up that email as you were saying that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I think really it was just to distinguish that it's two separate events and that they each have their own prizes. So I don't know if, Alicia probably has a good way of creating something to show that, but just so that.
Yeah, but I think they need the information, Eric. They need the information from you separating it out, what's on this one and what's on the other one.
Yeah, I think that's on, well, it's been sent out for both contests, so I think. Yeah, I'll just include all that information in an email to you, Mike. I'll grab it from, it's all posted on the site, but I'll just I'll make sure you get it all.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about it for me.
Well, thank you, Mike.
Do you know how many survey responses you got last year?
We didn't have a satisfaction survey last year.
Right.
Gotcha. Cool.
We just need 8 more and then we'll get a word picture. So on all those text box responses, right?
Yeah.
So
Aaron Vaughn would like us to reach out to him as per the last question of the survey.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'll have to take a look at that. Trying to remember what the last question is.
It's would you like Magip board of directors to reach out to you?
Okay. All right. Can do that.
I think we should all do it like right after this.
How can we help you?
I'll call him on his phone
Yeah.
repeatedly.
Yeah, it's fun.
All right. If there's nothing else for Mike, we'll move on to Eric. He's got stuff to report this time, right?
Well, it would appear that I do. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. apparently Zoom has an update and I can't get it to work as the desktop, so I'm having to do everything through their web interface, and it's just a little bit different. So, yeah, no, I just dropped to the chat the homepage for the council, for the MGA council, so you can see that. We did have a meeting just last month, I guess, January. Jeff and Mike was there in attendance. He gave a nice Magip report. Erin gave her usual lengthy GIS coordinators report. I mean, I'm going through my minutes to see if there's anything that stood out from those that we as Magip might be interested in.
Well, you were nominated to be our representative again.
Yeah, that's why I was getting through those, getting into those my minutes from that. From her report, the state is working to redevelop their Esri master purchase agreement, which is something that I know I used before we got our small government enterprise agreement. I used that to get the state pricing from Esri when we bought anything new, when we bought any new software. So that's something I think that as Magip, something we should be aware of. Let's see, strategic planning. She's very close. The state library, Erin and the library are very close to having a GIS, an ArcGIS Online / portal best practice document ready, which I'm excited for. I've kind of been holding off. I've done some research from other organizations, but I'm waiting to see their states. So, because I might use that to emulate or redevelop or develop something here for our local government folks. Let's see, a possible council planner. She's going to NISJIC, interesting community-based maps discussion, which actually came about because of the local government, our local government SIG meeting. Butte Silverbow identifying that the community-based map was updating from really old data files. For example, they're showing a railroad track going across the pit in Butte, and that hasn't existed since, I think Erin and I were looking at old topo maps since the 1950s. So so Erin's got that. She's got that in her, that she's getting down, chasing down contacts and chasing down folks over at Esri to say, what the heck? Why are you guys going back in time on us? Type of thing. Legislative updates. Let's see. Of course, we've all read those. We were aware of all those. They're administrative rules that were updated. We've seen those. I think as an organization, we commented on those as well. So the grant cycle, they're going to be allowing for a 2-year grant cycle. So they're not going to be having to require an annual land plan. So that's going to make things a little bit easier. But I think I recall reading that the grant cycle is going to be going to an even year. So FY20, they have the one going out this year, but then coming up, it's going to be falling to like FY26 will be the grant cycle, and then FY28, that type of thing. I think that's what I read in those rules. So council bylaws, I'm actually going to be reviewing those. I actually have a meeting, this Friday morning, to go over the council bylaws with the state librarian and also the other local government rep, Maureen, who's from Custer County, I think. Yeah, she's the GIS manager at Custer County. She's the local. She and Lee are the two local government reps to the Geographic Information Council, the MGA. So Alan's our BLM rep. Oh, by the way, there's 2 openings still. They need an opening. They need a representative from the land surveyors, Marls, and a representative from the private business position. I believe Erin said they had a couple names that they were following up on as well. So the grant program, council bylaws, I was nominated and will continue then to serve as the MGA's rep to the Magip board. I found out I found out later that evening when I went out for a beer with Aaron and Lee, that Lee was just this close. You can't see it because I don't have a camera on, but she was very close to taking the nomination as well, to asking to be nominated as well. So she was interested in serving. Then I said, well, there's always next year. So so let's see, NISTCHIC partnering, strategic goals, best practice, data policies, governance, addressing. Oh yeah, so they're working on a GIS data policy in governments. Aaron gave a really cool graphic showing that it's primary for state government, but I think it'd be kind of a interesting example to look at what might roll down. I have a feeling they'll reach out to Magip as an organization. We'll want to follow that because it's primary standards. Interesting, they can create these standards, but they don't have a stick, basically. They don't have that big stick to make people actually follow it. So, but they might be picking addressing and use that to follow through their flow chart of how to create a standard. So, and I don't know if hold on. I don't know if the full minutes have been posted yet or not from that January meeting yet. I don't see it yet. I'm not seeing. Yeah, we may not see those until the next meeting. And the meeting dates, we're actually set to meet Wednesday, March 13th. So a month from now, and then again Tuesday, April 23rd are our next two meetings. They're trying to meet a little bit more often right now, only because there's so many new people on this in this council right now. And I think, let's see, Big Sky. She talked about maybe having the council have a panel at Big Sky GeoCon, but that was Aaron was going to reach out to someone over on the planning folks, I think. So, and that pretty well wraps my notes. I don't know, Mike, if you have anything else you want to add from what you listened in on.
No, I think you covered that quite well.
So,
Maybe I missed it. The only other thing that was reported on, and I think probably you did cover this, Eric, was did you discuss the imagery? They've had a couple meetings on statewide imagery.
Yeah, she may have said it in passing. It wasn't on their agenda as one of their things, but yeah, that's coming under their NSI, the MSDI type of thing, and they are pushing hard with their imagery / elevation working group. And actually, they just had a meeting. We just had a meeting on that last week, and so they should be putting more information out regarding getting more people involved with that and things like that. So I think if you go to that, I think Troy has a real nice web app set up that talks about that.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know if it talks about the. I think it only talks about the LiDAR inventory. It doesn't talk about his imagery. Nope, that's just the LiDAR. I'm going to jump out on a limb here and make a pretty good assumption that he probably has a real good write-up under their MSDI page for imagery. Hold on. Yeah, I'll drop that into the chat so people can see it. She has we met February 14th, and the draft agenda and stuff like that was posted on that one. So.
All right. Eric, do you have anything else out for the group on MGIAC?
Nope, I think that about covers everything I have written. Best I could make out with my ticket scratchings that I had here on this piece of paper. So
Congratulations for being our representative again, and thank you to Mike and Gail. Tessa, if you could let Gail know, it's really appreciated. All the Magip board members that attended that. Mike, thank you for attending in person. I hope that the commit or the council thought or felt like they were supported and engaged, that our organization supported them and was engaged in their efforts. So
yes.
With that being said, I didn't have the next, oh, maybe I do. The next local SIG, does anybody know when that local SIG is for March? Did Andrew say anything about that?
Let me check my calendar. I think it might be
It's the
on that.
21st.
Okay.
21st. Yep.
All right, so I'll get that corrected and updated. We've got Big Sky GeoCon planning meeting. I see that just showed up on the calendar for tomorrow. So we've got that going on, and Big Sky, a board meeting. Our next board meeting is Tuesday, March 19th at 2 p.m. It's a Zoom meeting. So unless you all have anything else you want to discuss, I would take a motion for adjourning.
I do want to say one thing that we probably should put on the agenda for next meeting is that we do need to change the bylaws, whether somebody just does them and the board approves what the changes were, but we got to change them from MLEAC to MGIAC.
Yeah. It has to be the same time as the bylaws require that any changes have to be voted on by membership. So when we have our election,
part of the election, okay.
Yep. So I'll make those changes. I promise to do that, and I haven't make those changes, and then you can get that out as an additional add on to the election. So great stuff, Mike. Thank you. All right. Anybody else have any other comments? Discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved by Eric. Is there a second out there?
I'll second it.
Second by Mike. All those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Unanimously approved. Thank you all for attending the meeting and all of your feedback. Appreciate you doing that on a day right after President's Day vacation. I know it's busy for everybody. Thank you for your time. So.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.